Okay, Terry, don't hold out on us. Tell us what happened next.
Well, in those days, one did have kind of an entourage. Some of the lads obviously were there because of the amount of cash that was changing hands on gambling. I won slightly north of 5 million on the race, more than 2 million of which was in cash. And we went back to the box where there was some severe champagne drinking. And then we went across, we had a sing-song, and then we went to the car park, the famous car park, where we had a couple of 3 open-top Bentleys and the lads, and one of my great friends, Richard Morris from Edmonton, always did pre-packed, great, wonderful, famous pre-packed lunches. And so he made a whole load of food. We were cars full of food. A load of people came across the road to the car park. Dozens and dozens of bottles of champagne. Big bags of money in the back of the car. But of course there were a dozen of the lads, and I'm sure that people know that my lads were quite formidable in those days. 6'7" and 25 stone. There were half a dozen of them. And so we had a wonderful party until very, very, very late on in the evening. And of course, being Ascot, lovely. At some point, the car park shuts. But of course, in this case, one of the gates get left open. So the gatekeepers, Mr. Ramsden, how are you? I'm terribly sorry, but we have to shut the car park now. What? Shut the car park? What are you talking about, shut the car park? So I took a bunch of money, maybe 20 grand, give the boys. Oh, Mr. Ramsden, don't worry about that. I'm sure we can leave one of the gates open. Yes, don't worry about that. Yeah. Leave the gates open. Well, I don't know what happened next, but at some point we left the car park with bags and bags of money in the back of the cars. I woke up next morning at home. There are bodies, people, girls, people I don't know, someone sleeping in the bath, and I'm like, oh my God, what happened then? So we left the house, showered down, got a couple of $100 grand in cash, got in the helicopter, went off to Royal Ascot, left them to it. That was Thursday morning. I think my house finally got cleared on Saturday morning, give or take. In the meantime, while I'm there, Mr. Ryan and Mr. Flavin were holding court in the Moat House, which is a very famous hotel we used to use in Newmarket. I think our party finished probably just before theirs did. From what I understand, there were 2 days and 2 nights of drinking between Mr. Ryan and Mr. Flavin, and anybody that knows Mr. Ryan will know that he has a prodigious reputation for his ability to consume alcohol, or at least he did in those days. Mick, that's not a secret. And Patrick Flavin was the same. And they'll be friends of Dave Shippey Ellis, who's been a famous agent from, he did Olivia Pellier for a long time, and Simeon, and I think a wonderful time was had by all, and a fairy tale, I suppose, because you've got a long-haired young guy who's going against the establishment, who isn't very well known in racing, who's bought a horse sight unseen, won a famous race, impossible on its own, gone a champions to champions race at Royal Ascot, which is impossible on its own, against the might of Sheikh Mohammed, and Ladbrokes, and Lester Piggot, with a young boy called Philip Robinson, who became quite a jockey, but in those days he was a youngster. And we bet the hell out of it, and we won in a manner dismissive of, I don't know whether the Coronation Cup's ever been won so easy, with 2 horses so far clear of a Group 1 field. And that was 1984 for you, which was a very interesting year. As I said, the year that Glen International was born and evolved into a multi-billion pound company. Life kind of changed from then by one mechanism or the other.
And how did Cyril and Lester go on after that?
Well, Cyril was probably heartbroken, and because he was wrong. Obviously he's not betting with his money, he's betting with the company's money. But Cyril and I were at loggerheads all the time. There was a very lovely guy called Gerald Green who used to do the mitigation and offset one against the other, and kind of, make sure that relations were civil, because it was hostile, I would have £500,000 on a horse and sometimes they get beaten. It happens. £1 million on a horse, sometimes they get beat. But you know, you always read about the ones that get beat, you never read about the ones that won. And again, with the whole Ladbrokes situation, you know, it isn't quite what it appears to be. It's common knowledge. I was warned off eventually by Ladbrokes, but of course, no one actually knows what really happened, which wasn't quite what it appeared to be. So life went on, and you know, in 85 and 86, I done really well. Japanese market grew. I bought a controlling stake in the Hard Rock Cafe group, which we made into a multi-billion-pound group worldwide. I developed colour systems technology, which coloured the Wizard of Oz film into black and white, from black and white to colour, and became Turner Broadcasting, which became Warner Brothers. And so, you know, Lifetime Corporation, which became Alston Corporation, the biggest healthcare company in the world. So corporately, I was growing and becoming stronger and growing and becoming stronger. But of course, those type of things attract the attentions of Her Majesty's Revenue and Customs, as we now affectionately know them, the Inland Revenue at the time. And so, as 85 and 86 came about, obviously the stories of gambling and gaming and the like grew, and my interest in racing grew. Obviously, success breeds you to be more foolhardy than you would have done before. Consequently, my stable grew, and the bets became more aggressive, and the rest, they say, is history, but actually, again, everything isn't quite what it appears to be.